Dear mentors, in this video we'll talk about effective strategies that can help you lead mathematical discussions. So remember how in other videos we've talked about communication in mathematics, asking questions, reflection, but one important aspect is these effective strategies that can help you throughout all the communication process. We want to go beyond show and tell, so we want to embrace rich communication, and there's two types of concrete strategies to make that happen. So one is prompts and the other is cues. We want to incorporate them little by little. So there's a lot of them. You probably want to do some in some meetings, some in some other meetings, start building them, start connecting them. So let's talk about those. So first, prompts. So these are questions, statements, or instructions that can be directed to a student or to a group of students. And so the type of prompts go by goal. So they can either be used to activate background knowledge that the student may have, but he's just forgetting at the moment, or he may be using slightly incorrectly, so just activate some knowledge. You could also use it to correct procedures or misconceptions. You could also use it to promote reflection, metacognition, right? Make us stop and maybe think about it for a second, or recap, etc. And you could also use prompts to propose a given specific strategy to tackle a problem. You could think of it as a hint, but it's kind of a general hint that just redirects the student. And that enriches communication, makes it more efficient, etc. Let's look at some examples of these prompts and how can they be organized by type. So the first one is when a teacher says, can you summarize the steps you made to solve this problem? And so that could be promote metacognition, right? I'm asking the student to summarize what he did. So I'm promoting the reflection. Another type of prompt would be, can you explain your reasoning to another kid? And that's making him reflect, because when he just goes back to his track, he could be like, oh, I actually missed this step, or oh, I could have done this in a different way, etc. The second prompt, think a bit about what you know about adding even numbers. What do you know about even numbers? What do you remember? So that belongs to the activate knowledge category. He may be struggling with this, but you know that the student has this background knowledge. This was covered in a previous lesson, or you just know he probably has this background knowledge. So you're just prompting, right? So you're just saying, think a bit, what do you know? And then the student could actually remember that when you add two even numbers, the result is even. And then, you could keep going with your discussion, with your communication. The third one, after a student adds 1/2 plus 1/3 incorrectly, you say, can you actually draw a picture to see if what you did there corresponds to reality? Or during fractions also, applying some process. So this belongs to correct procedures or misconceptions. So that's a prompt exactly made for that. And finally, why don't we try drawing a bar model to make sense of this problem? Or why don't you draw a picture here? Or maybe you want to order this first before you do that. So you're just proposing strategies or heuristics, problem-solving strategies to solve or tackle a problem. And these may be narrow, these may be directed, so you may not want to do this in the first place, but it's good at some point when there's a lot of struggle, like the student struggling a lot, it's good to guide him. That's what we're teachers, that's what we're here for, so it's okay to do that. So cues are signals to convey mathematical meaning to what happens in the classroom, right? So the classroom has many components, mathematical and non-mathematical. And so here cues are just some tips, some signals that can help my students know in what sense things are being mathematical. What's the mathematical meaning of things? How can I make that visible? And so they can be visual, gestural, verbal, or material in the sense that you're using manipulatives, or that you're just using some body language, things like that. So the types of cues by goal would be the following. Emphasize an important idea. So you could be pointing at a notebook, or you could be saying, this is really important, what I'm going to say. Or you could be saying, what he just said actually can solve the problem because blah, blah, blah. So you're emphasizing important ideas. You could also point to work that needs revision. So you could take a student work and say, you want to look at this again? You may not say what he did wrong, but you're just using that cue. You could present content in a new way. So that means using visuals, for example, to explain in a different way what you just say. So that's some cue. And you could also use cues to anticipate misconceptions. For example, an example of a verbal cue for that would be, what I'm going to do is something that usually people do. Let's see if you can, detect the mistake or things like that. So that's a cue to anticipate things that, are misconceptions in mathematics. So I hope you like this video, and the point is that you can use these prompts and cues just like oil in a car, in the sense that it could just make the whole process flow. You will be also asking deep questions, and that's also your role, but these prompts and cues should kind of make everything, work like a clock, make it a little more smooth, make the transitions faster, etc. Thank you.